Okay, I've got something for you. The new parts have been fitted to the car. The simulation numbers are good, so look forward to your feedback. Check out the details.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Aarava here, and welcome back to my F1 2017 Career Mode, episode number 96 today for the Japanese Grand Prix in Season 5. We come here with a brand new part fitted to the car, that minor engine upgrade, the very first engine upgrade we've ever done to the Force India. So it's taken us all the way to round 16, but we've finally been there. Obviously, there wasn't much point of doing it till now when, after last episode number 95, by the way, if you haven't seen that, be sure to go check that one out before you see the rest of this one. At the end of that episode, of course, I realized that Red Bull had actually inched ahead of us in the engine department, which was actually, quite funny because Red Bull from season 1 were way down the order in like third last, so they've made huge progress obviously in the last 4 seasons. So I think that upgrade should bring us back level with them on engine power, and pretty much the only two better than us are obviously Mercedes and Ferrari. So I think that's going to be a big boost. Obviously, we've done plenty of work on making the car nice and light, and so around here in Japan that's going to come to use in Sector 1, but then obviously in Sector 3, coming off the back of Spoon down towards 130R, that little bit of extra engine power may just help us out. At the same time, though, it's going to be interesting to see for the first time after having the upgrade to the engine if I'm going to notice any difference on the traction, maybe, because obviously there's just a straightaway, bigger bump of power then as I put down my right foot on the throttle pedal. So that'll be interesting to see if that kind of changes at any point, because I definitely did notice it a few times in the Renault car over seasons 2 and 3. There would be some points when after an engine upgrade came in, it was actually noticeable that I maybe had to change my style of driving a tiny bit just to compensate for the extra power, because if you're underpowered, pretty much, there's a little bit less to worry about in terms of the wheels spinning up on the rear end. But we go through practice then, and looking forward to this one. Obviously, the Japanese Grand Prix, in general, I think it's been a very, very strong Grand Prix for me. I think I can safely say that. Obviously, in the Renault, we surprised the top guys, and maybe even myself, really, in terms of pure one-lap pace in that Renault on Saturday, and then we went through to really make a good strategy work. It was a one-stop, I think it was, if I remember correctly, or a two-stop technically, but one stop for the slick tyres, basically. And, we made that through, and we came to the win, and obviously equally in the Red Bull car, had a very solid race. So I'm looking forward to the same thing hopefully here. We come across the line in Q1 then, and it's a strong start to the weekend for the entire team because Perez is in second place. So not only am I looking good, but he's looking good as well. So it may not be a case of me simply dragging the car up higher than its potential around here in Japan. I think the car's just going to go very well indeed. Obviously, as I mentioned, that straight line speed is going to help down back straight, but a bit of a scruffy start to that first line lap in Q2 then, going wide on the exit opposite lock, obviously trying to hammer in as fast as we can into turn 1 and trying to reduce as much braking as we're doing to turn 1, so get a little bit wide there. But we make up the time again, and we come across the line in Q2, and I surprised myself, we came across the line to take fastest in the session, so really, really surprising after that little mistake into turn 1. So, but we have to be cautious, because in the Q3 we've seen so many times that teams love to turn up the wick, but you've got to say Ricciardo and Verstappen looking very strong in P2 and P3. Obviously the Red Bull guys would be very strong in the first sector, but Ricciardo was there in fastest in Q1 and then second in Q2, so it looks like he may be the guy to beat, because at the moment we come through for our one and only flying lap in Q3, and Ricciardo's already set a fastest time, so provisional pole for Daniel Ricciardo, so he's looking like the guy we have to try and beat if we want that pole. And I'm feeling good about it. We've set a purple first sector there. It's purple in the second sector, it looks like, if I look at the mini-map there. So this is looking very decent. Just have to hold it through the last few corners then, through the chicane, down the hill. Could this be the pole position in the Force IndyCar around the Japanese Grand Prix? No, it won't be. It'll be second place on the grid, on the front row, alongside Daniel Ricciardo. And Ricciardo pips us by just the smallest of margins. It's so close there at the top as well, with Sebastian Vettel, Lewis Hamilton, and Nico Hülkenberg really the only guy then further back. That's one entire 10th back, so all very, very close in the first 2 rows. So that's absolutely awesome, though. That's really competitive. And actually, if you compare the lap times from Season 5 to Season 4, the entire grid's made an exponential jump in terms of lap time around Suzuka. So really good to see that. You can clearly see that development is, in career mode actually is, these cars are developing, and even the AI are developing, and we're all naturally getting faster and faster at each circuit as we go on through these seasons of career mode. So I can't imagine what the lap times might be around Suzuka if we were to get all the way to like season 10 or something like that. That'd be kind of crazy. But second place then, I can't lie, I'm a little bit disappointed because I thought we would really be on for a really, really awesome pole position in the Force Indy. That would be an amazing job. But second place still alongside Ricciardo, and you've got to say we have a very good chance then of battling for this win. We've had the pace the entire time over the course of Saturday, still had it in Q3 when generally the top teams make a jump up. up. So looking forward to this one. Obviously, we're already ahead of Raikkonen, so I think we have a very good chance of taking the lead of the championship and extending that by some way if we make it good in the race, and hopefully we can have a good one. So let's go into the grid sequence and let's get into this race.
We're almost ready to go then, and this is what the starting grid looks like for today's race. It was a good showing from Red Bull in qualifying, and Daniel Ricciardo starts from pole position, and a Force India alongside. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Vettel, Hamilton, Nico Hülkenberg, and Verstappen, Raikkonen, Perez, Bottas, and Roman Grosjean, Palmer, Massa, Daniel Kvyat, and Magnussen, Sainz, Stroll, Fernando Alonso, and Stoffel van Dorn. Wehrlein and Marcus Ericsson rounds off the grid. And now it's time to head down to the track.
Right, so here we are then on the starting grid in second place ahead of the Japanese Grand Prix. Overcast conditions, you can see that entire bit of cloud on the left-hand side. But if we go onto our race strategy screen, you can see the weather indicator is going to say it's actually going to be getting sunnier and sunnier as we go through the race. So no kind of drama there in terms of some rain maybe hampering our race pace today. We're probably going to most likely go with that two-stop default, 2 sets of super softs and soft tyres. I think we have the pace to make that work, especially against Ricciardo. Obviously, we have to start on the set of super soft tyres from Q2. So let's get into it then as we go to 5 red lights for the Japanese Grand Prix, and we're underway straight away. No time to waste, and it's a good getaway from us, but equally so for Daniel Ricciardo. So we go towards turn 1, and we have to tuck in behind in second place, unable to make anything work. But meanwhile, behind us, 3 wide goes the Mercedes, Renault, and Ferrari. Sebastian Vettel trying to go the long way round, and he's made it work. And he'll go side by side with Nico Hülkenberg, but I think Nico will just about hang it through for third place then. So he'll get ahead in third. It'll then be Sebastian in fourth place, and I think one of the Mercedes cars, I think of Hamilton, had to settle then back for fifth place then as we move on then towards the end of lap 1 now, down towards 130R, gaining quite a bit of time here in this sector against Ricciardo. Of course, he may find some more time in sector 1 and sector 2, but down this straight, this is where that extra engine power is going to kick in. Rich mix on the Mercedes engine working well. We're down to stand now through the chicane as we come now through the final corner down the hill. We have a very, very good run on Ricciardo. He sets fast up the Grand Prix, obviously leading the way after lap 1, but on to lap 2, we're going to be the one that leads the way of the Japanese Grand Prix into turn 1. Ricciardo has nothing to kind of answer with, and he has to tuck back in there, and we're up into first, so that's awesome. So now we just try and control the lead as best we can until our first pit stop of the afternoon for the soft tyres. But as we move on through the Grand Prix, that is easier said than done. Ricciardo sticks with me, and you can see the entire train pretty much of the top 7 sticking with me at the moment, and Ricciardo goes for a big lunge around the outside into the hairpin, the really kind of now cambered hairpin on the F1 2017 game, and he's managed to find the grip and the pace and downforce around the outside then. So we're going to have to come back at him. We get in the slipstream, and again, you can see how much speed we can gain once we're in the slipstream of a car. But of course, as soon as we're in the lead of the race, Ricciardo can get the slipstream on us, and you know, even though he does have the Renault power in the back of his car, the slipstream will still work pretty well for him, because remember, I drove for them last year and they did plenty of upgrades on the Red Bull car for drag reduction, so they benefit from that still in Season 5, even though I've left the team. And so we tuck in now to overtake Ricciardo once again for the lead of the Grand Prix, and unlike what happened to Kimi Raikkonen last season, he does not get hit with a wash of dirty air and flip his car into the wall on the right hand side. That is still very, very odd, and still kind of strong in my memory there. That was kind of the oddest crash I've ever witnessed in the game from an AI, really, at the Japanese Grand Prix last time out with Raikkonen. But now we're on to lap 6, and we're maintaining first place. You saw there, we had a few cars come in the pit lane there, so a bit of an early stop, I would say. But we actually then move on to saying boxes lap on lap 6, so kind of reacting almost to those guys coming in on the next lap. Ideally, I think I would have liked to have maybe taken it to lap 7 or lap 8, but due to those guys coming in, I thought it would be best. Ricciardo does stay out, but that just means I may be able to get a good undercut on him then. So we come in, set of soft tyres then, and we're going to stick to that default strategy of basically the second set will be super softs again, and that'll be us to the end of the race. I mean, you saw there, even though the top 7 was very, very close, everyone else was quite spread out back, so I think this is going to be the way to go to obviously attack these top guys. Otherwise, I think we'll be a bit too slow on medium tyres. Speaking of medium tyres, you've got a whole lot of guys on mediums. Toro Rosso, the Williams now that goes past of Lance Stroll, the Toro Rosso up ahead, and then Haas was also on mediums. We come out ahead of Ericsson, thankfully, so we're not going to get held up by Sauber, but we do have to make some moves now on Lance Stroll, down the inside, very gingerly, just kind of easing it into the brake zone. Don't want to make contact with Stroll, and obviously we know he can be quite erratic. Maybe we try and go around the outside, then on the curb, and we're going to easily outpace him in a straight line, of course, getting the traction down a little bit faster on soft tyres versus the mediums. The mediums are really, really quite poor. I mean, they worked out for us, obviously, in the Renault to kind of make that alternative strategy back in Season 3, but now with the pace we do have in this Force India, it would go to waste kind of being on the mediums at any point in this race. You know, it's kind of a nice feeling, you know, because we had so many seasons of doing that of being on the slower tyre and having to maybe just have track position. But now, really attacking cars now. And we catch up to Carlos Sainz, who's going very, very slow in the S section here. So he's kind of holding us up here, probably about half a second lost there. We go around the outside, very audacious place to make a move. But we have the confidence, have the grip in that sector, and really revving out 5th gear there. Loving the revving out of 5th gear through that first few corners. You know, just nice and flowing. Just, you don't even need to brake too much. Just let the engine really do most of the braking. And we come across the line now on lap 9. So in the fast lap of the Grand Prix, you can see Ricciardo making his pit stop finally. And we come out just ahead of him then. So Ricciardo went super, super long on that first stint to lap 9. So 3 laps longer than myself. And we go down the inside, feeds it to the outside of Kevin Magnussen then of the next right-hander in the S section. And we just get ahead of him. And hopefully he can hold up Ricciardo somewhat. But we only just got ahead of Ricciardo. So to say we had 3 laps, obviously, of fresh soft tyres versus his more worn-out super softs, he's actually done very, very well in his own stint. But now he's on actually another set of super softs, so he's going very aggressive. He's opting for 2 sets of super softs firstly, and then he's probably going to go to the end on soft tyres, whereas obviously I'm doing that kind of sandwich strategy. But Ricciardo sends it down the inside and aggressively forces Magnussen basically off circuit to make that move. Bold move for Ricciardo, and a very decisive one obviously, as he needs to try and chase after me then. So we move on to lap 16, so 11 laps left in this Grand Prix, and it's time for our second pit stop of the afternoon. So not much happened after Ricciardo made that pass. Myself and him just going on as we did in what was second and third. One other guy, I can't remember who it was in the top left, but some other person still leading the way as they were yet to pit from a set of soft tyres from the beginning of the Grand Prix. But we get held up a tiny bit in the pit lane there with getting off the clutch in the pit lane. But we come down on super soft tyres now, and now it's just a push to the end. You know, we've got a little bit of rich mix to kind of play with, not too much, but we've got some, and obviously very fresh super softs and low fuel. This is where it's going to be a lot of fun to drive this car. But we do come out behind our teammate Sergio Perez, thankfully ahead of Nico Hülkenberg, who's on medium. So the Renault team still opting for that alternative strategy of medium tyres. But I think that was all to the Red Bull Ricciardo. He'd come in a lot earlier, obviously, having been on the super soft tyres, whereas I was on the soft tyres. So that's why we've gone as long as we have done. So on lap 17 now, we're closing up on Perez, and we had a little bit of a look to the inside of that chicane. Didn't work out though, we're too far back to try and make a pass, so we're going to have to wait now down the hill on towards the main straight. Ricciardo setting the fast lap of the Grand Prix, so he's going very well indeed on his new set of soft tyres. We need to get past Checo as fast as we can. He's my teammate, so hopefully he doesn't put up too much of a fight. He knows we're an alternative strategy here, but he does put up a fight, and quite a big one indeed. Nearly going off circuit, making a little bit of contact as we lunge around the outside then on the racing line, and we just about nip it ahead before we get into the heart of the S section. But Checo making my life a little bit more difficult than I wanted it to. I was about to say, of course, because we're on the softer tyre and the faster compounder tyre on that more aggressive strategy, hopefully maybe the team would have told him to maybe let me through, but no, not the case. But now we're just going to go through the laps then, using rich mix when we can down the straights, kind of saving it when we can through the S section, going back to standard or even lean mixture, and we set the fast lap of the Grand Prix. So pace is good at the moment, and we are rapidly catching on to the back of that Australian Daniel Ricciardo as we move on to the middle of lap 21, locking up a bit into the hairpin, but we're getting a good exit here, and you can see at the moment in standard we're going to save it all for that back straight down to 130R, because you're just like Spa towards Blanchimont and the bus stop chicane, the slipstream is ridiculous through there. But even through the spoon curves, we're gaining some time on Ricciardo, and we're using that grip that we've got, that extra grip on the super soft to good effect. But a little bit of a tank slap on the exit, that's fine. Up into rich mix now, and just hold it through, calm as ever, and just trying to pick out the slipstream line from Ricciardo through 130R. Obviously flat out now at this stage of the race. It was flat out pretty much at the start of the Grand Prix, but we have, again, like we did with Perez, a little look to the inside, even more so than we ever did with Perez. Doesn't work out though. Last minute I have to go down to first gear to slow myself down, as Ricciardo was really going to shut the door there, but we're so much closer to him than we ever were to Perez on the exit of the last corner. Then DRS open, rich mix going down the main straight, and we are back up now into what is going to be hopefully a net first place, but at the moment it's actually only second, because Palmer is in first place now on soft tyres. Now this is the really funny thing here, that Palmer, I believe, starts on the set of medium tyres. He didn't qualify in the top 10, I don't think, and obviously we know from Hülkenberg, the Renault team are doing an alternate strategy of going on medium tyres, so I wonder if Palmer has done mediums to softs, and he is genuinely in first place and trying to go to the end now. So we are maybe not going to be in a net first. I think we may even just be in a net second, and we actually need to go and overtake Palmer, legitimately on track, for position. That's going to be a bit of an odd one if he's come out of nowhere to be leading the Grand Prix. I mean, fantastic for him, but kind of crazy. Meanwhile, though, we can see the two Mercedes cars. We haven't seen too much of them since the start of the Grand Prix, and they're actually getting held up by Felipe Massa in the Williams. So surprising to see that the Mercedes guys are having no real pace actually around here, and really struggling struggling to get past the Williams car, which obviously we had very easy time to get past. Eventually, though, Bottas does get through on Massa. Hamilton's the one that gets held up, though, and Bottas makes a very nice move to the inside of 130R on the Toro Rosso then. But the Toro Rosso and Williams doing really well in this race to be that far ahead. But oh my god, look at that! Bottas double lockup then. What a weird mistake for him to make, and now the Toro Rosso is back past then. And Bottas now may find himself under pressure from Massa once again. So such an odd thing. And so Mercedes' race goes from bad to worse for Bottas especially. And now look at that, Felipe Massa down the inside. He's going to try and make the pass and re-overtake Bottas. He shoves him off circuit. Lock up though. Bottas comes back. What a fight and a half between Valtteri Bottas and Felipe Massa. Obviously former teammate from when Bottas was at Williams. Great scrap there. And ultimately Bottas will stay ahead of Massa for that time being. But we move on to the end of lap 23. And as much as I'm pushing as hard as I can to try and catch Palmer, at the moment I'm actually having to look behind me as Ricciardo is right up my chuff. He's actually got some good straight line speed now on this lap, and he's actually pulled a little bit. His nose is alongside there. We go defensive to the inside and just about hold through there. But you can see our engine is a little bit worn there. The internal combustion engine turbocharger and one of the MGUs also a little bit worn in the yellow there. And so that may allude to why we're unable to really catch Palmer and chase after Ricciardo. And we come through to the final lap of the Grand Prix. And once again, I'm left speechless a little bit. And once again, you guys can laugh a little bit in the comments that Jolyon Palmer has just won his second race of Season 5 at the Japanese Grand Prix and has taken victory. I come home in second place, though. I'm still happy with that. A little bit unfortunate. I think both myself and Ricciardo and indeed Hülkenberg and indeed pretty much the entire top 10 are surprised that Palmer's come through for the win out of nowhere, really. As I mentioned, he was on mediums at the start of this race. Didn't look like he was in contention. But fair play. His strategies worked out there and surprised all of us. I guess it kind of helped that me and Ricciardo were fighting through traffic and ourselves. But I'm still happy with second place. Obviously, that's a big advantage because you saw there Raikkonen finish way down the order. So can't complain too much about that. And it was a good race overall in terms to get ahead of Ricciardo, falling behind after the second pit stop. Had to actually do the work to re-overtake him there. But Jolyon Palmer, mad. Two wins now in the last 4 episodes there at the Belgian Grand Prix and now at the Japanese Grand Prix. And I thought, you know, if Hülkenberg was the one that was going to win this race, he may have been right there to close up in the championship. But no, Palmer instead jumped up to 6th, ahead of Vettel now in the championship. You can see there, we've now got a nice lead in the Drivers' Championship, and we've got back ahead of Ferrari in the Constructors by about 1 measly point. So it's still very, very close. With now 4 rounds to go in this season. The drivers are looking a little bit easier, maybe for us, but for the Constructors, it's still literally going to go down to the wire, I think, because we've had like 3 times now, I think, where Ferrari and Force India have been 1 point or, you know, just up to 4 points apart. So that's been a fight that's been very, very close all season long. But now, as we round out the episode, then looking at the R&D tree, having a look at in terms of the points we've got and what upgrades we've got available. Obviously, I mentioned I don't feel like we can do any more on the aerodynamics because we basically hit only majors and ultimates, which are going to take 4 and 6 weeks per, respectively. So I really don't fancy doing anything on the aerodynamics, but we do have maybe options to do something on the chassis weight reduction again. We've got 1 more minor before we hit another major part there, or we could go for an engine upgrade. In the end, though, I just thought, yeah, let's just go for it. We'll go for that final minor weight reduction upgrade, and that's obviously going to, help in some way around, the likes of Mexico, USA, going to need that through those corners, especially Mexico. Obviously, we're a place where we struggled. Obviously, the Force India's gone pretty well. The season's gone by. I remember Sergio Perez won his home Grand Prix, the Mexican Grand Prix, 2 seasons back now. I think it was in Season 3. So I think that will help towards that. It seems like the most logical option for me personally. So yeah, guys, if you have enjoyed the episode, then smash that like button. Really great second place there. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're new around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. I've been Aarava. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.